Smith, and this segment is what to expect at your first appointment. Most oftenly, people ask me, well, what do I do to prepare? You really don't need to bring anything or prepare, but for those people who would like additional guidance, if you're coming into my office for your first meeting regarding your estate, you should bring, if you have a former estate plan in place, so any wills, trusts, durable power attorneys, or health care, you want to bring a copy of those in, along with, if you have time, notes as to how you want to change those documents today. If you can bring copies, that's great. If not, don't worry, we can make copies when you come to the office. Another thing on the topic of estate planning that you want to think about is, with your changes, or if you don't have an estate plan, if you're just making your initial plan, who do you want to put into the various fiduciary positions? People always say, well, I don't know what a fiduciary is. Think about each instrument. The executor is the first fiduciary choice, and that's the person who's in charge of your will and any assets that are under your estate. In that same document, if you have a minor child or if you have an adult disabled child, you may need to make a designation of a guardian. So who, if you die before your children are of the age of majority and there aren't any issues, who would take your place, and that person would be the guardian. In the circumstance if you have an adult with disabilities, who would take over if they've been adjudicated and incapacitated and won't be able to ever make their own decisions? Who will take your place? Again, that same person will be a guardian. So that takes care of the fiduciary choices in your will. Moving on to your durable power attorney. Who is the person that will step into your shoes if at any time during your lifetime you cannot make decisions for yourself with regard to your personal affairs or finances? That person is called your attorney in fact. That's the third fiduciary choice that you want to think about before you come and visit with me. Typically, if you're married, people appoint each other, and then you want to think of at least one, preferably two alternates to serve in that position. Moving on to your healthcare directive, also known as a medical directive, advance directive, or a living will. The person who steps into your shoes in that scenario with your medical decision-making, or being able to talk to physicians, or accessing your medical records, that person is often called an agent or a proxy. That, again, people who are married often will appoint each other, and then you want to have at least one alternate, or preferably two. That situation is a very personal decision with regard to your medical care because it could involve end-of-life decision-making. So you want to really think about who will be able to step into your shoes and effectuate those very difficult decisions should that be something that happens to you during your lifetime. The fourth document is your trust. It could be a special needs trust if you're benefiting an adult child or at the time of creation, a younger child with special needs. It could be your revocable living trust. It could be several other trusts depending on what your purposes are. There are loads of different trusts that are very specific purpose to achieve whatever the goal is you want in your estate plan. In any case, the same fiduciary will serve in those documents, and that person is called a trustee. Your trustee is the person who receives the money, sets the bank accounts up with the money, and then they manage the money for the lifetime of the beneficiary, and they follow instructions that are contained in that trust. Typically, I like to tell people to think about your executor, your trustee, and your attorney in fact, your durable power attorney, being the same series of individuals because they're all dealing with money, whereas for a guardian or your healthcare agent, they can be different because they're not dealing with the same pot of money. So that should prepare you for your first estate planning appointment with me, know what documents to bring, and know what things to be thinking about. The only other thing that you want to prepare is if you have an outline of your assets in terms of values, what you have and how they're held, including characterization of property, that's extremely helpful. Don't worry if you don't have these things together, you can always supplement them after your first meeting, but at least now you know what to expect to your first estate planning appointment with me.